Hello. I figured I will do a bit more live coding videos going forward, in part because they're fairly fun to do and they're also fairly challenging. I don't think if someone hasn't tried this, it's hard to really appreciate how difficult this is. But that's also sort of the fun challenge aspect of it. So the task for today is to implement single domain recrawls, which is something that has recently emerged as something that's desirable to do. I've basically had a bunch of people reach out and say, hey, my domain wasn't crawled properly. Can you find out why? And then it's turned out to be some transient network blip or something. And doing a full recrawl of that partition of data would take a week, and it would involve bothering a bunch of innocent webmasters with a bunch of requests and so on. So that's not really a desirable state of affairs. So instead, the plan is to basically add a button where you can find the domain in the user interface and click recrawl this domain, and then only that domain is recrawled, and you only need to reprocess the data, which is still a bunch of work, but it's a fair bit faster still. So I've made a plan for today, and this is in part because live programming is difficult, and it helps to have some structure. But this is also like in general a good idea. I fairly often just put on my cowboy hat and go yeehaw and cowboy code, right? But it turns out that if you actually put some thought into what you want to build, then you tend to build better things than if you just wing it. Right, and it should be emphasized that there's a fair bit of indirection we're going to need to cut through here, because the system basically needs to deal with running very long running tasks and persisting state on in the database and having multiple partitions and so on. But the plan of attack for today is to start at the crawler and then work our way backward to the user interface. And there's a map of how the instruction to crawl flows here. It starts with the user interface, and here we have an operator, and they send a HTTP request to the control service, which delegates to one of the executor nodes, which will start an actor that sort of persists in the database, and that actor will spawn a process, which is the process we will be looking at now. Right, getting to it. This is the crawler process, and I've actually opened all the files we will need to edit here, and that's just another level of preparation. Right, and this is the main function, right? And here we fetched instructions from the actor, and we will go look at that. And it's looking at the message queue and starting a single shot inbox, which is basically a fake inbox that just retrieves a single message. And it will try to get one of these objects, which is the message, and we will need to add a field to this request. And it should be an optional field. There's a way of encoding that other than the comments, but it's still helpful to point that out. And actually, I think I will. How do I turn this off? Turn off Copilot for the moment, so I can think about what I want to write. Right, we want to add a name. Something like that. we should emphasize that this will alter the behavior of the crawler somehow. Let's leave it like that for a moment. Can think about the description when we actually have had a look at how we will operate on the field. Right, so now we have fetched this object, and then we deserialize it, and here we do some stuff. When you trigger the crawl, you can either provide basically a list of domains to crawl, or you can use the database. In this case, I don't think it matters. We will go the right. If this is not set, then we will go the database route, so that's fine. I don't think we will end up using it, but and all the stuff is sent into another class, also called crawl request, and with a lot of clarity. And then we will need to add another field. Is this the same name I was using before? Target domain name. Having some consistency in your naming is actually pretty good, because it makes it a lot easier to follow when things don't subtly change their names as you go. We can just add this to the constructor as well. Like so. And what is the order for this? I think we should actually order it. As we have about all the sort of user-provided stuff in the beginning, so let's move it for consistency and hope it doesn't crash IntelliJ. Maybe. Hello. Okay, maybe let's not do that then. Do it the old-fashioned way. Like we are in the past. But luckily I have coded in the past, so this is not entirely unfamiliar for me. Then we go back to where we call this. I don't think we want to actually modify this run function. I think we want to have a parallel run function for only indexing. Only crawling a single domain. This is the full recrawl. It will actually wipe the crawler log, which we don't want, and it's like spinning up all this like thread pools and stuff to crawl in parallel, which you also don't want because we're just crawling a single domain, right? But I think we can copy it, and then we just remove stuff until it's the most basic version of the code that's possible. Like so. Total tasks, we can get rid of mark log. I think we can possibly get rid of that. Yeah, we shouldn't get rid of that. This we provide a list of domain names to this incredibly Java factory thing, anchor tag source factory, which will allow the system to pull in anchor tag texts for a list of domain names. But we need to prepare it in advance which domains to fetch, because it's loading it into RAM from a Parquet file. Yes, and then we have this specification stream. I think I need to have a look at this, guys. That's a stream. What are we doing over here then? Specification provider. This domain role depth URLs. Okay, I think we can make such a record on our own. Some of these guys. This is still the right. Oh, that's the wrong method. Target domain name. Crawl depth. What do we put in here? Let's put 1,000, just hard code it for the moment, and then we do. Actually, we can null the URL list and it will discover it on their own. Actually, I think this is fine. It's possible to provide a list of known URLs, and crawl depth is typically a function of what you have seen during the previous crawl. Basically, we try to crawl about to the same depth using historical data as a reference. But since this function is for when crawling has somehow failed, we don't have that information. So we will not have a list of URLs, and we will not have historical crawl data to suss out how deep we should be crawling. So this is fine. And then we can just do a crawl task. And this guy still wants a work log. Can we have like a... I think we need to make a temporary work log for this recrawl, but I think that's actually a pretty good idea at any rate, because we want to have a log of what we've done, right? So we will just do like that, possibly. Have some semblance of path safety. That's probably not a good practice, but this is mostly to avoid crashes more than prevent malicious users from feeding bad data into the system, because you're at the control user interface already. You can already do basically everything in the system. You have complete access. So, and this should just be about running it. Right. I don't think we actually need to do this, but it feels better to do that. It's like bad feng shui to not have this. Right. I think that's possibly all we need. And this will do everything. Can we clean it up somehow? I don't know. Let's see. Next, we need to branch at this point based on whether we have a target domain. So, right. That should actually be all we need to do here, I think. I think we can re-enable completions again because I'm not typing a bunch of comments now. This is the crawler side changes probably done. We can close the work log. Now we need to add a new actor. Do we need to add a new actor? Yes, we do need to add a new actor. The option would be to have like multiple entry points for this actor, but I think that would be a bit messy. Let's do this instead. And we can actually remove this. We want the target domain name instead. Like so. We can get rid of this field. This state machine is how the system persists process state over time, and it's designed so that it's basically possible for a system, for a part of the system to be restarted or crash or something like that, and it will just keep ticking. And this is something that's fairly desirable for something like a search engine where you have stuff that's running for days and weeks, and you also need to be able to update parts of the system. So there's a lot of problems you encounter when you try to keep all the state in memory. But at the same time, this isn't like, it can't be stateless like a lot of modern microservice type stuff tend to be. So this is a bit of a compromise to have fairly stateful services and processes, but a slow message queue dealing with keeping the state. Right, so what we have done now is basically add a copy of this recrawl actor, which is what normally handles a recrawl for a full set of crawl data, and modified it. I'm only added stuff to it, but I want to remove some stuff as well, because it will delete, or sorry, it will back up and delete the crawler log, and we don't want that to happen. We don't want to synchronize any domain lists. Validation is fine to keep. And we have modified it to send this new field in the request. And then we should add a description as well. like so. These descriptions actually show up in the user interface in tooltips, so it's good to have them relatively accurate. Refresh service. We don't need to pull in that guy either. So this is a bit slim. But what's actually happening here is most of the logic isn't visible here, but you have like a state machine out of records implementing this actor step. And every time we receive a message, then it ends up in this transition method, which will do a pattern matching switch statement and basically run the relevant code and then return a new state. And this will be persisted, and eventually this will be invoked again. So it requires some careful coding so that you don't try to keep stuff in memory and so on. Everything needs to be persisted, but that's fairly standard distributed software programming fare, right? So not too much to actually say about that. Right, let's clean this guy up more. We don't want a bunch of irrelevant fields to linger from the actor we were basing this off. But I think I'm fairly happy with this now. It seems to be doing what it should be doing. Let's see here. I think I'm missing some step, but let's go to the API and add a new function as well. Look at this guy. So, definitely a class name. I'm living the Java stereotype now, but that's how it be sometimes. Right. I am definitely missing a step from this list of classes I have opened. And that is we need to actually register the actor. And first we add it to the enumeration. If you don't register the actor, then that's the wrong class. Then it's impossible to. It doesn't spawn up and it doesn't listen to requests. So this is a bit of a foot gun. I would love to find a way to have this happen automatically, but so far I haven't discovered a way of implementing that. And this is where Juice is actually kind of nice in populating all these parameters. Right, but now we have registered it and now it should be firing up automatically. And now we can go back to where we were. No, stop doesn't hook in properly. Fine. Let's do this then. Client. I feel I have actually accidentally closed a few of these classes, unfortunately. But we can still do it. Let's copy this guy and figure out what name we gave it, and then we figure out what parameter we gave it. Actually, Need to run the code generation as well. No. And there we have it. We need to hook it into calling the correct actor. Let's close this guy. Request. Did we? Yeah, actually, we should change this. I'm trying to be consistent here with the naming. As mentioned, it makes life a lot easier over time. You don't invent new names for things all the time. And actually grep for this target domain name in the future and find this entire chain of calls. That's very nice. Right, this is the request handler in the actor service. So going back, we are still in here. Sorry, we're actually in here. Now we need to go over to the control service, or rather the client side of this protocol, and that's, I think, what I had open. Did I name it recall single domain? Yes, I did. Like so. There's a lot of boilerplate here, but luckily the Copilot is very good at generating these snippets. I'm very happy to say that. Otherwise, this would be a serious pain to work with. So now we have added the client method to call what we just added in the RPC service on the executor service, which will trigger the recall single domain actor, which we just modified. But we also need to call this method, and now we are definitely entering the control service finally. And we will add an endpoint here. So check to ensure that this field is actually properly populated. What is this doing? Right, we don't want to do this. There's a notion of having an active active crawl set, so that when you go and process the crawl data, it defaults to the one you were last messing with. But I don't think it's desirable to change this when you're doing this sort of maintenance stuff. So we will remove that, and then we can call the client. Right, now we have added an HTTP endpoint. It's time to... I swear I had this open. Never mind. Let's go to the node storage crawl data parquet details, and just add a button. Actually, we're too early to do this. We need to hook this in as well. Like so. Now we can go do the fun stuff of adding a button, and I think we'll just make it a danger button. Yeah, maybe. Like so, but this is not, we don't want to send the path, we want to send the domain name. And I do wonder if we have it somewhere. Here we have it. It's just target domain name. Could it be that this is it? Well, actually, we don't want an href here. This is not a link anymore. Like so. Let's just double check. It's not FID, it's source. And then we have target domain name. And we're getting ID right from over here. And then we will do recrawl. Right. So what we have done now in reverse is add this button to the user interface. We have added an endpoint that deals with it and calls this gRPC request to the executor service. And IntelliJ isn't smart enough to actually know that if you do this, you end up at the code that handles it, but I know where it is because I just edited it. And over here we did added a handler that just spawns this new actor that we created, and this is the single domain actor, recrawl single domain actor, and we're feeding it the file storage ID and the target domain name, and then we're just returning empty. Right, and we have added this new actor, which will spawn the crawling process, and again, this is spawned in a separate process because the crawler may require a fair amount of memory, and we don't want the an out of memory exception to crash anything important. So it's good to have separation via a different process, because if it fails, it's fine for it to fail. We can just restart it later, right? So that's why we have that. And we have cleaned this out, and then we basically just send on the crawler outbox request, which we have modified with this new field. And this is fed into the crawler's request class in this new field. And when the crawler finds this field, it will not run the standard crawl operation. It will run the crawl for the run for a single domain method, which is a very slimmed down version of the full code, which doesn't start a bunch of thread pools and do all this parallel stuff. It just runs in the main thread, basically the crawl job, and then it says, "Hey, I'm finished." And then the rest of the crawler will just wrap up as expected. So fingers crossed this will actually work. Let's find out. Let's wipe our butts and build Docker image. And this is actually so much faster than it used to be previously. It would take forever. Did I see an exception? No, it was just some warning. It's fine. This, however, is an exception. Sorry, a compiler error. We need to add a null for target domain name for the full crawl actor as well. So let's try this again. I probably shouldn't have run clean there, but whatever. It's as I mentioned, it's very fast now, and this used to take like almost a couple of minutes with the previous Docker build. But I've moved over to Jim, which is a lot better. So now I think it should take like 30 seconds, which is acceptable. Especially given this is like a full rebuild of the entire system. 37. And then we just restart these services that are affected. I think we can just pull it along over here. We'll see if something blows up. And yeah, this seems fine. We have added a. We should be changing the message for this. It shouldn't say download per K, but we can do that in a moment. Let's recrawl search Marginalia. See what happens. Okay, that seems to have worked. Cool. And we actually got our own log over here. Cool. So the one thing we actually missed. That's not the window I wanted to open. The one thing we actually missed was this guy. Should say trigger recrawl, and we actually want a confirm dialog as well for this. And see if I can figure out where the heck I want to do that. Feels like this IntelliJ configuration is falling apart for some reason, but whatever. And can deal with that later. See if I can figure out where this is. I do this like right. And this is the laziest I've ever been. I'm looking for the exact formulation to copy. We can just alter the dialog text. And actually I could have just typed this in, I guess, but my instinct is always to avoid typing JavaScript, so let's copy it instead. Like so, maybe. And these domain names, they're actually fairly strongly validated to be proper domain names, so I think they're relatively safe. Actually, it's fully safe to do this because when you're just doing double brackets, it's sanitizing the rendered output. You need to do like triple brackets to get the raw output, so there's no risk for like a JavaScript injection or something here. That's neat. Right. Right. So as I mentioned, it turns out if you actually make a plan, it's relatively easy to make a large change and have it work correctly. This is like a good practice in general, and yeah, I think it's relatively easy to get lost when you're doing some ad hoc change. And relatively often you waste a fair bit of time doing that. So this is a good good practice, right? I think in general live coding is very good for improving your programming because when you look back at a video like this, you will discover a bunch of mistakes you made, which you would probably have not noticed otherwise. Like really stupid mistakes. And this is something I used to be into, like competitive StarCraft and stuff like that, and you always have like replays you look at after a match to figure out, well, what could I have done differently, and what was the opponent doing and so on, basically to analyze your gameplay. And this is actually fairly similar to that. It's very easy to spot stuff like stupid mistake you're doing. Like I was like using this dialogue in an awkward way, or I was mousing improperly or something, whatever. You never spot that while you're doing it. It's really difficult. But when you're looking at yourself doing something, it's immediately apparent when you're making that sort of mistake. So I think it's probably a good practice. Let's see, where are we? Oh, that's not the window I wanted to open. I was just talking and not really thinking about what I was doing. fidgeting, I think it's called. I wanted to add a new header because you have like this area here. The heading is shorter than the buttons. Actually, this is pretty cool. The feature seems to be working as intended. So let's just do a quick Docker butting. And bring this guy up again. Sorry. Right. I don't know if this should be a danger button or just a non-primary button or something. Right. This. Actually, I think. Can we just this a bit to see what it would be like if we. I'm very much not a front end guy, and I'm sure everyone will be able to tell based on my incredibly awkward navigation of this stuff, and in general like bad intuition for. Button secondary. Let's do that. I think this is probably bad as well. Let's just do button primary everywhere. That's the bad practice. That's in the rest of the system. So that's how we would roll. At least it's consistently bad, which is better than inconsistently bad. Right. Let's just review the change to see if there's some minor stuff that can be fixed. Probably there should be like constructor methods for this guy, because right now you have all these like magical parameters that you need to understand that if you pass null as the second parameter, then this is going to happen. How is this? Yeah, I think we should actually do that. Like so, and let the roll request class be the guy that's responsible for knowing these magical combinations of parameters. I think that's probably better. Then we can add here, and then I saw a bunch of stuff that needs to be removed up here. So, and actually, here as well. Not quite right, Copilot. Yes, I think this is actually what we want to do. This is that. That is hard-coded crawl depth is possibly something that could be made configurable. Possibly, but it's hard to know what you're supposed to put in there anyway, so given that this is mostly like a debugging utility or maintenance utility, then I think this is probably fine. It could possibly have been like a parameter you pass in, but it's like you would almost always set some high but not too high value like this. Right. This naming is a bit verbose, I guess, but this is fine. This is fairly trivial. This is fine. Fine. This is front end. Right. This actor. Appears to be doing what it's supposed to be doing. Let's just double check this is still doing what we had it doing before. Right, that's fine. Do we have anything like unused imports? No. Yeah, well, I think we're just going to be sending this. I don't think there's actually too much elaboration to be added in the commit message. I know some people like very long commit messages, but I don't think they should be like long for the sake of being long. Yeah, easy isolated commit. Yeah, let's send it. And I think we possibly may have some merge issues. I think we can rebase these guys. Because it's just some documentation changes, I think. Yeah, that was fine. Right, so as mentioned, live coding is fairly difficult. I enjoy it, but it's like it's challenging, but that's fun. I like challenging thing and challenging myself. So I think it's a force for becoming a better programmer. Because as I said, talked about earlier, you spot a lot of weird and awkward mistakes you're doing, like how you're using the IDE and how you're typing code and so on and so forth. And especially now that I don't really have colleagues that I can like pair with or something like that. Talking into the void is at least some social interaction with the microphone. Yeah, so this was a fairly quick change and a fairly straightforward change. I'm hoping to do more videos in the future. I was doing this with the camera off because we're like in the middle of moving to a new apartment, and my quote unquote office is in the bedroom, and it's like very chaotic and messy, as things are when you're about to move. So hopefully future videos will be from my new office, which is an actual office and not just crammed in behind a bed in a small bedroom. Hopefully we will see when the actual moving date is soonish. PM. All right. I hope this was enjoyable to someone, or possibly no one. At least the algorithm will watch me, because maybe I have copyrighted content somewhere. See ya.